January 28, 1986. The world is watching as the space shuttle Challenger starts its journey to space. 73 seconds into flight, the space shuttle explodes, killing all 7 astronauts on board. It turns out a tiny rubber part of the spacecraft, called the O-ring, could only work properly above 53 degrees Fahrenheit. That winter morning, the temperature was 36 degrees. So why did NASA launch the spacecraft? Let's go to the evening before the launch. With temperatures for the launch date predicted to be low, engineers and management hold a teleconference. Engineers recommend delaying the launch as they don't have data to assess the effects of such low temperatures on technical performance. A heated debate follows, with management having doubts about the engineers' recommendation. They find the data inconclusive, unable to prove that launching was unsafe. Long story short, management bypassed the engineers and ultimately decided to launch. The rest is history. Though technical reasons led to the explosion, the problem was deeper. The Challenger disaster is an unfortunate example of what can happen when communication is broken and necessary information is not adequately assessed. Such failures result in compromised judgment and poor decision making, which links to the theme we discussed in the class: judgment and decision making. So, how can such errors be avoided? How can organizations make correct decisions? Let's make a model to find out. Our dependent variable is correct decision making at organizational level. This is the outcome we want organizations to achieve. Of course, the definition of correct decision is context specific. In the Challenger disaster, the correct decision would have been to refrain from launching the spacecraft. We then identified 2 independent variables in our model. The first IV is effective communication, which includes the transfer of complete and accurate information in a consistent and timely manner, as well as active listening and engagement with each other's input. Effective communication has a direct positive relationship with correct decision making. The second independent variable is information availability. Available information has a positive relationship to correct decision making at organizational level, indirectly through the mediator system to thinking. To make an informed decision, organizations must have access to all necessary information. However, to properly analyze this information and arrive at a correct decision, the use of deliberate and conscious system to thinking is required. But the model is more complex than this. Even with necessary information and the use of system to thinking, judgment can be impaired by cognitive biases. The specific bias we examine in our model is optimistic overconfidence, which according to Zacharis and Shepard is tendency to overestimate the likelihood that one's favorite outcome will occur. Optimistic overconfidence is a moderator between system to thinking and correct decision making that has a negative influence on their relationship. That is why optimistic overconfidence must be absent for organizations to reach a correct decision. Turning now to characteristics of the context, we find that our model is high-stake and high-valid. It is high-stake because outcomes based on this model have significant implications. In our example, incorrect decision took the lives of 7 people. It is high-valid because if all 3 variables that have a positive relationship with the dependent variable are present, there is high likelihood that dependent variable will be achieved. Let's now look at the implications of our model. To gain a better understanding of our model and its application, we have classified our variables as either stable or malleable. System to thinking, optimistic overconfidence, and information availability are considered stable because they cannot be changed within a short period of time. They need a lot of training and practice. On the other hand, information availability can be considered malleable or stable depending on the context. But in our case, obtaining all necessary information requires lots of effort and time. For this reason, we have concluded that information availability is more stable than it is malleable. That leaves us with effective communication as a malleable variable. How people within an organization communicate with each other can be changed within a relatively short period of time if appropriate processes are implemented. According to Davis, some of these processes include encouraging employers to report bad news, training employees to make formal cases for their recommendations, and softening the hierarchical distinction between employees and managers. So, what we have learned from the Challenger disaster? That organizational decision-making processes are complex, but effective decision-making is crucial. By using our model to understand the complexities of decision-making processes, organizations can strive to improve their decision-making and avoid catastrophic outcomes.